Hello, before getting to the actual reading, I saw this thing on Facebook that apparently translates the first people of the first lineage of the Bible, Adam, man, thus appointed, moral sorrow, for Enosh and Cain, Meliah, the blessed God, Jared shall come down teaching, and Enoch, Methuselah his death shall bring, Lamech the dispersing, Noah rest and comfort. Then I wanted to look it up. According to Blue Letter Bible with a website where you can go and look at all these things like it. Seth means compensation because Seth was to compensate. Actually, we even go to what Eve says before when he has Seth. She gave birth to a son and named him Seth. Seth. That. Okay. I'm looking for the note. Seth probably means granted or compensation. Saying God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. So it doesn't mean appointed. You wonder what this is. This is from like Strong's. Then we have Enosh, which just means man. Does it translate to moral? Not necessarily. Mortal? Not necessarily. Just two. Then who's next? Cain. Possession. Possession. Oh. It doesn't really seem like it's yeah, it means possession. What Kagan doesn't mean what. Okay, Malelil. Praise of God. Okay. Jared descendant. Okay. Enoch, not dedicated. Methuselah, man of the dart. And Lamech, powerful. Yeah, powerful. Wikipedia says it. Yeah. Okay, so apparently when Lamech prophesies, this same shall comfort us concerning the work and toil of our hands, because the ground the Lord has cursed. Cursed and hope to release through Noah. which makes sense. But yeah. Well, apparently, according to Afghan legend, his tomb is in the 16th largest city in Afghanistan. Take it. That's what you will. So it doesn't look like this Facebook thing is correct. If you have other arguments why it may be, why I'm mistaken, I'll leave everything in the comment section or no description for you to mess around with. Also, yes, some of these dates you think, wow, these people are really, really old. Yes. But let's go to Methuselah for a minute. Methuselah. So, Methuselah, of course, dying at 69 years old. Not even the oldest person that's said to ever lived. Just in the Bible. If you're wondering. Okay, literal to be that to solar years. Some apparently early human had a better diet, or water vapor canopy protected the earth from radiations. Humans were originally to have everlasting life, but sin introduced in the world. Adam and Eve, its influence became greater with each generation. Okay, the Catholic Encyclopedia. Certain exegesis solves the difficulty of their own satisfaction by declaring that the year meant by the sacred writer is not equivalent of our year. Well, interesting. Is a result of its conversion of months to years, converting it to 969 lunar months, which is 78.5 years. And that's a PDF called Making Sense of the Numbers of Genesis. I can leave this in the description too. And then there's Inspiring Philosophy's video where he talks about this. I think it's called 9-Year-Old, 100-Year-Old Man. You know what? I'll leave that in the description. But some calculated, but the same calculation applied to Enoch would have him fathering Methuselah age 5. But someone on Wikipedia says this source is unreliable. But if you want to look it up, it's the Genesis Record, a scientific and developmental commentary on the Book of Beginnings by Morris Henry M., Grand Rapids, Michigan, Baker Bookhouse, page 159, ISBN 0801060041. Such an interpretation would have made Enoch only 5 years old when his son was born. Apparently Donald V. Etz suggests that Genesis numbers might have convenient have been multiples of 10 or 5 or 10. And that's in his book, The Numbers of Genesis, Volume 3, Volume 5, 5, Chapter 3, page 31. A suggested convention and its implications, Vedicus Testimonia thing. You know, Wikipedia's not a good source, but it's a good place to, where a lot of sources are. Where a lot of sources are, and you can use them. Anyway, find other sources. It's like Google. R. Barnett argued that the Septuagint Genesis number 5 are tenths of years. Will explain how it was that they read 930 years for the age of Adam instead of 93 years, or 969 years for Methuselah instead of 96 years, and 950 years for that of Noah instead of 95 years. Surely it's much more radical to conclude that Noah lived to 50 years instead of rational to conclude that Noah lived 50 years instead of 500 years before he took his wife and begot Shem, him, and Japheth. Then a list of Septuagint total ages will be decimal points: 93 for Adam, 91 for Canaan, 96 for Methuselah, 95 for Noah. That is her book, Cosmology or Creation of the World. And yes, I'm just leave Wikipedia in because it's easier to link all these sources. It's note number 26. Just go down to, ignore what Wikipedia says, and just goes down to the bottom and start clicking. And of course, there's the myth, where a bunch of people think it's a myth. Although I will leave the paper thing. And some people think it's symbolic. Inachu did not die, but was taken to God. It's the 7th patriarch. Methuselah's 8th dies the year of the flood, which ends in the 10th generation, subsequent to Noah, in which time the world is destroyed. Believes Methuselah just symbolizes. Okay, that is in. Oh man, Adam Marat, a king's list of the old Babylon period and biblical genealogies, a Journal of American Sociology, 88, 1968, page 165. See also dimension 10 in Genesis, discussion of 10 in Genesis genealogies. An M about section, and Jacob Nervet, the Mista A New Tense. Okay, I'm not reading this entire for enough. Anyway, these that Methuselah served as a symbolic function for linking the creation to and the flood, as Adam would have died during Methuselah's lifetime, and Methuselah could have learned about the Garden of Eden from Adam, or they could just pass it down generation to generation. A lot of people did before the system of writing. Actually, a lot of people did before the system of writing took on. Actually, there's still people who do it now. For a 1998 page of it. Wait. The kings of the Sumerian kings list lived for over 1,000 years. Mesopotamians believed that both living for over 1,000 years made someone divine or somewhat divine. Okay. And that their contemporaries were discounted from the kings of Sumeria's king list. Citation needed. Okay. Genesis also believes that the author of Genesis said Methuselah died before he lived 8,000 years to show that he was not divine. Okay, like yeah, you can live to very old, but you're not divine. Cat die at like 50. Oh yeah, and if anything is described as Methuselah living long, as long is usually described as Methuselah. So, or Methuselah tree. Yes. So, this is the written account of Adam's line. When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created the male, and he created the male and female, and blessed them. And when they were created, he called them man, as in mankind. When Adam had lived 130 years, wait, if that decimal thing was true, that would mean he was 13. If that decimal thing was true, Adam would have been a 13-year-old boy. No wonder Adam and Eve rebelled. They were teenagers. He had a son in his own likeness. Oh wait, that just means Eve was 13 too. Oh, that's created appearance of age. Maybe bodily 13, but yeah, I don't want to think about is. Can we just say that theory maybe falls? Sounds too disgusting. In his own image, and his name was Seth. Seth. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So, in other words, 80 years? 80? Altogether, Adam lived 93 years, and then he died. He's 80? 13 plus 80, 93. Just a minute. I have to check this. 13 plus 80. Yep, it is. Oh, Ooh. Seth had lived 105 years. Oh, that means and became the father of Enos. This series getting worse and worse as it goes. And after him, Enos, he became the father of Enos. Seth lived 807 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Seth lived 912 years, then he died. When Enos lived 90 years, okay, this can't be a decimal because that would just be 9. And plus, men can still have babies, get women pregnant after that. So, if the decimal theory is true, at least he decided to wait a long while. He had become the father of Canaan. And after he became the father of Canaan, and Enos lived 815 years. Chance to grow up together, because we don't know how long they had. They may have been 5 or something. Who knows? But I don't want to think of this. 15 years, and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enos lived 905 years. Then he died. Kegan had lived 70 years, and became the father of Meliliah. And after he became the father of Meliliah, Kegan lived 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Together, Hagen lived 910 years, and then he died. Medaliah had lived 65 years. He became the father of Jared. And after he became the father of Jared, Medaliah lived 830 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Yes, other sons and daughters. Something people keep on missing conveniently when they ask, how did 3 boys result in all of humanity? Well, Adam and Eve had other sons and daughters, then a lot of freaking incest. If you want to take that as a most literal thing, I'm saying. Altogether, Medaliah lived 895 years. Also, do you notice people are getting young? When Jared had lived 162 years. That would be 16. Although teen pregnancy is around that age, is a thing. There are 16-year-old dads out there. He became the father of Enoch. And Enoch became the father. And after he became the father of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years. And then he had other sons and daughters. Together, Jared had lived 962 years. Then he died. When Enoch lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived 365 years. That's just a weird coincidence. That's exactly 365. How many days we have in a given year, unless it's a leap year. Huh. Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. Yeah, he wasn't taken to heaven. No, that's a misconception. He's taken into this place called Abraham's bosom. It's not heaven. It's a temporary holding place where all the good dead who are faithful to God are kept, while heaven is being, while the new heaven and new earth are being prepared. They have been prepared, and you know. Also, yes, 365 years. No, that's not a conspiracy or anything. The modern concept of having 365 days in a year hasn't been around yet, like at all. Methuselah had lived 817 years. 18, still a little young, but still you're officially an adult by our standards. Years had become the father of Lamech, and after he became the father of Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Methuselah lived 969 years, and then he died. Lamech had lived 182 years. He had a son. He named him Noah. And he said, he will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands caused by the ground the Lord has cursed. After Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Lamech lived 777 years. Then he died 777. Seven's not just a lucky number, and that's not just the number you get on a slot machine when you win. 7 is seen as a very important number, a high and divine number in Hebrew, the biblical stuff. But 3 sevens is really good. Kind of think of it the opposite of 666 in a way. After Noah was 500 years old, decimal series, that would be 50. Which would be 70. But yeah, 50. Which is so old to have kids. He became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, here's the thing. There is no fourth son. There's this story of a fourth son of Noah. who has done all sorts of crazy things. Didn't make it to the Ark, was too sinful. Him and a bunch of other people made another boat, made it to Ireland, then died. There's all sorts of stories of a fourth son of Noah. Oh yeah, just a minute. There is one more thing I kind of want to do. Okay, let's see. Shem, Ham, literally. And Joseph. Shem. Let's see. Just give me the word. It doesn't want to. Yes, I know it's in. Oh, there it is. I found it. Okay. Shem, name. So Semitic literally means Namitic. The people of name. Yes, all Semitic people. Yes, of the tribes of Shem, just means name. Okay, what? Ham. Whoa. Ham. Yes, I know it can be found in our words. There you are. Hot or sunburnt. Huh. Ham is usually associated with Africa. Do not do it in the modern times because that's been taken over by racist people. Or sunburnt. Interesting. Interesting. Well, Africa is the warmest continent, and the Israelites would know Africa as Sahara, which is even hotter, and a place you go to get sunburns. But would this be a thing that proves the Jews aren't black? Because if they were black, black people don't really get sunburns all that easily. Yeah, So, some people say Shem is also... Oh, not Ham is also the descendants of all of Asia. Okay, interesting. They're probably just like the descendants of like some tribes around. Inspired Philosophy also has a video about this too. But we should go over more of that in the Table of Nations. Okay, we got name, hot. Noah's really knocking out the park with trade names here. Let's see, what is the last one? The progenitor of the Europeans. The supposed progenitor of the Europeans. Let's see. Opened. Open. Okay, actually it does say something. The third son of Noah, whose descendants after the flood settled on the coastal lands of the Mediterranean, spreading north into Europe and parts of Asia. Opened. Well. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of links in the description today. Have fun with that. Bye. Go watch my other stuff.